Okay, so I'll start sharing my screen. Let's go over. Let me open up the code editor, the same JavaScript, which is so this folder. As usual, we have an empty index.js file. And if I go live from here, we click on HTML and we open the inspect, we go to the console, and if I type anything, I'll see the result here. That's obviously the result. Now, yesterday we were talking, yesterday we finished talking about objects and started talking about the loops. So we spoke about the for loop. Here's 1 second. Yeah, so let's continue with the loops part. The first loops we spoke about yesterday was the for loop. If we finish that part, so I hope there's no question or no confusion there. And we also spoke about the nested for loop yesterday, so that is also done. Now today we're going to talk about the while loop. So the while loop is basically it's a kind of a loop which continues to run as long as the test condition is true. So the way the while loop works, you have this thing called while. Inside this, you give a condition. Now, as long as this condition is true, whatever whatever block of code here is, that will keep running. Okay, so let's say that as long as this block of code is true, as long as this condition is true, whatever code you write within this block of code will keep running. Okay, like let's say, for example, if I have this let num is equal to 0, and I'm saying as long as the num is less than 10, just do console.log of the num. After this, I want to increment the number. Okay, when I do this, I get 0 to 9 here. So let's see what's happening. So initially the number is 0. We enter the while condition here, and 0 less than 10, this is a true value, and hence we enter this block of code. Now, inside this block of code, we're just printing the number first, and then we're incrementing the value of this. What while loop does is once all the lines within this block are executed, right, then it goes back inside the test condition and it checks this condition again. This time number is actually 1. Because we incremented the number here in the previous iteration, this time the number will be 1, which means 1 less than 10, which is a true value again, and hence we enter this block of code. Again, we print out this thing, we print out 1 here, and then we increment the number. This time number becomes 2. We are saying while 2 less than 10. This is also again true value, and hence we enter the while loop, and we console log this, and we increment this, which means this number will become 3. We're checking for 3 less than 10, and so on and so forth. Basically, as long as this test condition is true, we enter this while loop, and we run every block of line. And once everything within the while loop is completed, we then go inside this test condition again. Now, let's say when the number is actually 9 here, we print out 9, and when we do 9 plus plus, which becomes a value of 10, this time 10 less than 10 is false. When test condition is false, we do not enter the while block here. Okay, that's when we exit the while block. Now, thing is, imagine that if I comment this out, what happens here is num is 0, 0 less than 10, it is a true value. And then we enter the while loop, we print this out, and then we come here again. Again, the number is still 0 only, which means we actually enter an infinite loop here. Okay, so always make sure that whenever you are running a while loop, it has to end at some point. Otherwise, it will keep running and it will break the app, because you do not want to enter an infinite loop. So let's repeat what I'm saying. So basically, if you do not have any condition that increments the number value, then this thing will become always true only. This thing will never change. This will always give you true value. And if it's always true, you always keep entering the while loop, and you always keep, you always loop through the while loop again and again, which is not what you want. You actually want to stop after a certain point of time. And that's why this condition exists. That's why you increment the value here. Okay, so that's how it happens. So you increment the value in order to ultimately reach a point where this condition will be a false at some point of time. Okay, so what we'll do is let's create a simple like a program. Basically, we'll say that we give a target number and we want to guess that number. Let's create a guessing game basically. So let's say there's a target number. Let's say the target number is 10, and I want to guess the number. So if the target number is let's say that, okay, so I'll tell you what I'm trying to tell you guys. Let's say we have a target number is 10. We have to keep guessing that number. Let's say first time we guess 1, which is wrong. Then we again guess 2. Again guess maybe 5. We guess maybe 11. We guess maybe 10. So ultimately, until we get the correct answer, until our guess is the correct answer, we have to keep guessing. Basically, I'm saying while the guess is wrong, then keep guessing here. Because if the guess is correct, then we win the game, right? So that's how, we'll write a simple program for that. Let's see how it goes. Let's say that we have a const target number. So if you do a math.random, this gives you a value between 0 to 1, not including 1. So let's print out this target number. We get a value from 0 to 1, basically, not including 1. So if I basically want to get from 0 to, like, if I do into 10, I basically get a value from 1 to 10. If I keep saving, say I get 1.6.9 point, like that. But I still do not get a value of 10. So if I do a math.floor of this, so basically I get a value from 0 to 9. So we keep seeing every time I'm saving the file, the value is actually changing here. So right now the value is 7, 7 again, 7, 9, 2, 4, 1, like that. Basically, this thing will give you back a random value between 0 to 9. Let's say our guess is, let's say our guess will basically be the same thing again. Okay. Now what we should do is, while the guess not equal to the target number, as long as the guess is not equal to target number, we can just do a console.log of guess incorrect. Okay, and then we can basically just try to guess the value again, and we will exit this while loop only when we get the correct only when the guess is equal to target number. And here we can just do console.log of correct guess is the guess and target was target number. This time, so initially only we got correct guess, but let's try to save again. So if you see what happened here is after these many guesses, so first we guessed 3, which was incorrect, and then we guessed 4 was incorrect. Again, we kept guessing. Ultimately, when we guessed this value of 6, right, that's when we got the correct answer. So what we're saying here is as long as the guess is not equal to the target number, you want to keep guessing. You want to keep going with a new guess. This target number will remain the same, but we'll keep changing the value of this guess as long as we get the correct answer. Like we're trying to give a new value to the guess value of to the guess variable, such that as long as the guess is not equal to the target number, we'll keep going through this block of code. Okay, so that's how the simple example works. Like while loop can be used for this. Okay. So while loop, so I hope there's no questions here, guys. Any questions in the while loop? Guys, any questions? Okay, I'm not even getting a response from you guys, so I'll just carry on. The next thing I want to talk about is the for off loop. So we have already spoken about the for loop. We spoke about the while loop as well. Next, let's talk about the for off loop. So basically, for off loop is a very nice and an easy way to iterate over arrays. Okay. The way the for off loop syntax looks is, if I write the syntax here, so you say for variable of an array. This is the basic syntax of the for off loop. For off loop, this is the syntax. I'm going to give an example of this. Let's say we have an array. Const maybe names is equal to, or let's say const superheroes is equal to, this will be an array of Iron Man, Batman, Spider-Man. Okay, let's say we have only these 3 of them for now. Now to iterate over these superheroes, the previous way we saw was using the normal for loop, which is by using, like, for let's say for let I is equal to 0 and I less than would be array superheroes.length, and we have to do I++. This is how you would normally iterate over this arrays. And if you just do a console.log of superheroes of I, then we print out all the values within the array here. But this is not a very easy way of looping through arrays, and that is why after ES6 they've introduced us to a way to loop over arrays, which is the for off loop. The way the for off loop works is very similar to how the for off loop works within Python. So we say for const let's say hero of superheroes, and if you just do a console.log of hero, we get the 3 values here. Okay, so const hero of superheroes, which means in the first iteration, this hero variable will point to this variable, this value, and I print it out here. Once this entire block is finished executing, and what happens is automatically this hero variable will pass will be referring to this value, and hence we print out this value again. This code of execution will be done. Once this block is executed, then in the third iteration, the hero variable will point to this thing. Basically, the advantage with this is we do not have to tell it what is the length of the array and where it should begin with, where it should end with. All of those things you don't need to give. Automatically, you start from the beginning of the array and you end at the end of the array automatically without having to worry about anything. All right, so you always begin at the starting of the array and you end at the end of the array. And this variable will keep pointing towards every single value within the array, which means in the first iteration, the hero variable will point to this value. In the second iteration, the hero variable will point to this value. And in the third iteration, the hero variable will point to this value. And that's how it works. So it's very simple. So a for of loop is basically used to loop over the array of values, where the variable will basically refer to the values within the array. Okay, that's how it works. And now next is, what if you have to loop over the objects? One second, guys. Okay, so this was about the for of loop. Next, let's talk about the objects. Like, what if you have to loop over objects? And so the thing is, we actually have a helper method which we can use to loop over the object. So let's say first of all we have an object here. Let's get an object. Let's say cons user is equal to, the ID will be 1, name will be, yeah, and then maybe location will be Hyderabad. Okay, let's say we have this object here. Now there is a method called object.keys. Okay, basically, what is this object? This we'll talk about a little bit later, but just remember that we have this method called keys on this object constructor, where if you give the object, right, this will return to you an array of all the keys that are used within the object. Which means if I just do a console.log of this one, let's see what we get. We get back an array of all the keys. These are the keys within the object. And also if you observe something, each of these keys here is actually a string. And this I told you in the last class as well. Whenever you create an object, right, all the keys within the object are actually strings. Every single key inside an object is actually a string. Okay. So when you do object.keys of user, that returns to you an array of all the keys. Now, similarly, we also have this thing called object.values, which gives you back all the values of the object. Okay. Now you also have one more thing called object.entries. What this does is it gives you back one main array within which we have multiple arrays again. If you observe this, basically it gives you back the key value pair within one array. Basically, what you're getting back in case of this object.entries is you're getting back this thing called ID, with value of 1. Next thing is you're getting back name, the value of Aditya. And third thing is getting back location, the value of Hyderabad. So this is what the object.entries will give you back. It gives you back a main array, which basically has multiple arrays within it, where every array within the main array is basically a key value pair. So ID 1, name and Aditya, location and Hyderabad. Okay, so this main array basically has multiple smaller arrays within it, where every small array is basically a combination of the key and value, key value, key value. I guess like that. That's what the object.keys is used for. So let's say that you want to loop over the object of keys. Basically, we have the for of loop. So we can say for const key of object.keys of this user object. What I'm saying here is I'm saying object.keys of user. Basically, this will give us back, like I told you. So this one will give us back one array which has all the keys within it. So ID is one key, and we have name as another key, and we also have location as one more key. So this array will be returned by object.keys of user. And if you loop over the object.keys of user, which means you bring over this array here. So this is your console.log of key. We get back these values, and if you want both the key and the value, you have to just do key, comma, user of key. This time we get back the key and value, key and value, key and value. Again, this is the second way of accessing properties within the object, which I spoke about yesterday also. Basically, you can access the properties in two ways with the object. First is dot notation using the dot operator, or just a dot thing there. And second way is by using the square bracket notation. And the square bracket notation either accepts the string itself, which is the key, or it accepts a variable which resolves to a string of the key. That's it. So this is also how we can use the for of loop for looping over an object. But there's one more way we can actually loop in through the keys in an object directly without using object.keys, and that is by using a for in loop. Let's say we have a for const key in user. This for in loop is basically used to loop over the keys within the array. In this case, if I just do a console.log of key again, so I get back only the keys here. But if I want both the key and the value, I can just do key and user of key. Okay, this is also one more way you can loop over the objects. So you have a for in loop, which is basically used to loop over all the keys within the object. Okay, so any questions, guys? Okay, I'm guessing no questions. Then, so I'm done with the loops part here. Nothing else to cover in loops. We'll be talking about one more important topic from Sunday. So I hope more people attend the class. But for today, I think we'll stop the class here. We'll continue on Sunday, and we'll start with a new topic on that day. All right. So good night. Have a good weekend, guys. Bye bye.